This is the first of a series I'm doing called the Coffee with Mark. I don't know what I'm calling it, coffee something. But this is content and videos in particular just for benefactors. In other words, people that are supporting me financially so that I can do my work. Uh, in general, that means my friends and family and people that I've worked with and that I know and trust. So this is not going to be shown publicly. It's only for you. At this moment, there are no benefactors. So I'm actually really just talking to myself with the understanding that I'm going to have benefactors. And then I want this to be the first moment of that conversation. Um, and I I'm using the word benefactor, I think, because there is no, with few exceptions, there is no viable way to have a solid, stable living in the arts right now. And in many ways, there never really has been. And artists have often required benefactors to understand the value of what they're doing and finance it so that the art can be created. And I'm not saying I'm Beethoven or something, but I am saying that given the way our society is built, we really, really, as a society, value art and films, which is where my interest is, and storytelling, but we are not willing to pay for it. So it's only through communities that support what we're trying to do that we can exist. On the formal end, that's grants. On the informal end, that's Substack subscriptions. So I really appreciate you and what will become a community that I intend to build. So the purpose of this video and these series of videos is to talk to you candidly so that I don't have to um, put on a public persona in order to communicate. And I think that's important, an important part of community building. You see, the benefactors I view as my brain trust, people that, for whatever reason, maybe it's personal relationships or maybe there's something about what I'm working on that really appeals to you, but for whatever reason, you want to see me successful so that I can create work. And so it's important that I bring you into my thinking and in my circle so that I get meaningful feedback on what I'm doing and also to validate what I'm doing. The reason that there are no benefactors right now is because I haven't summoned the courage to reach out to my database and create my initial call to action. And I'm going to do that. In fact, putting this video up is one of the last steps, and I need to do in order to do that. So by the time you get here, this video will be there, and I want you to watch this one first. I wanted to spend the 30 minutes or so that I'm going to be talking to you about explaining how I got here and what it is I'm planning on doing. I think it's important to really clear the air on my background and why I landed where I did. I have only ever wanted to make movies. When I was a little kid, I created movies with my Star Wars and G.I. Joe action figures. There was one time I wrote a script early on. I would have been, I don't know exactly, I think 12 or 13. And I wrote a script, a buddy cop movie called Hard Knocks. And I was so excited about the script, but I was too afraid to talk to anybody about it. So I lied and told my friends that I had seen this movie, Hard Knocks, and I went on and on and on about it. And they were very excited to see the movie, but they couldn't find the movie playing anywhere. And I just lied. And even when one friend kind of confronted me about it and said, "Look, I don't think this movie exists. I think you made it up," I still lied. I said, "Well, maybe you waited too long and it's not in the theaters anymore." This was in the late 80s, early 90s, so I guess it could have happened. Uh, and that was my first script. I don't know what happened to that script. It might be worth visiting. But I've only ever wanted to do this. I was in high school writing scripts for the stage. There was no such thing as a film class or even a videography class or anything like that at my high school. I grew up in Colorado, and so I didn't even know it was an available option. It was a mythical Avalon to me to get into movies. So it never even occurred to me as a viable option. Writing was and acting was. So I was all over the drama and speech and debate and all of that in high school, and then in college, I went full force into that. And now my college was a little state school in Colorado. They didn't have a film program, but they had a videography program. So I learned video, and I made my first feature in college. It was called One Day in the Life of a Pizza Delivery Boy, and I just rallied all my friends, and we had SVHS video, and we made this movie about a pizza boy trying to deliver a pizza in an hour, and then getting wrapped up in the mob and Russian spies and a bunch of other calamities. And it was hilarious. It was great. I still have very fond memories of that movie. I don't think an existing copy is around. There's one guy I think has a copy, maybe, but I don't know. It would be great to see that again. That was my first feature. I also acted a lot, and in my 20s when I got out to LA, the intent was to get into movies, but it never happened. I never even tried, and it kind of breaks my heart when I think about that. I should have, but there was this really embedded fear that it wasn't possible, not only making movies, but acting in them. Because I looked around and I saw all of these people that were way more talented than me, way more trained than me, way more good looking than me. And, when you're in your 20s, especially in Hollywood, you are competing with the best of the best and the people that look the best and are the most talented. And it was just, I didn't even try. I didn't even think it was possible. I said, oh, you know what? I'm just going to find something else to do. And I wanted stability. I married really young, and I felt that I wanted stability in my life, for a family. And so I ended up in corporate America. And that's where I stayed for almost 25 years. And in that time, I was always trying to find a way subconsciously to get back to the craft. And one of those ways was through communications and marketing, and I was able to do a lot of production. And so I did a lot of interview stuff, or just social media content or things like that. And I was sort of the go-to production person. Me and this other guy did a lot of it in the agency that I worked. And after that agency, that was what people kept hiring me to do, was video work. And I was competent. I'm a competent videographer. I'm a competent editor, but I was always done with this communications lens. Like, I never really did the creative stuff. So I continued to do that, even though I was trying to become a strategist in corporate America. I was trying to run my own practice on communication strategy, which is a very lucrative field if you can make it work. And again, I was thinking about stability. And I actually had a business that I ran for a long time, not a long time, a brief time, that was successful. But I ended up going back to videography a lot and content. Then the other thing that was happening during all those years was that I look back now and realize I was kind of rebelling against my path, and I was trying to get into any creative field that I could. And I latched on to tabletop role-playing games. And I didn't know it at the time, but looking back, I think that I got into that field because it was close to getting to acting without actually getting into acting. Like, I could embody and writing, because I'm a storyteller and a writer, so I could do both. I could create and write games, and then I could act in them. And it was kind of a playground for a long time, and I tried to make a serious business out of it. I believe that I was pretty successful. It was under the name Christopher Gray, and some of you know me by that name. I go by Chris with a lot of my friends. That's my middle name. And Mark is always a name that I didn't care for, but I go by Chris. The game industry allowed me to make a little bit of money and create kind of a place for myself to create projects and to act. And I I tried to make a successful living at that. It's just not possible. The game industry is not very lucrative. Um, but I built a community there and a following, and it really did scratch the itch for a long time. Uh, and then all of a sudden, when my life started to change because of COVID and because of I exited the agency field and went into my own practice, and all of this other life changes started happening. I started getting burned out on games. And I couldn't quite pinpoint why. It was such an important part of my life for so long. And I think the reason was I broke away from um, the need to have an escape because I was creating my own way. And I was using games as an escape. I was also using it to have a creative outlet. So it turned into a situation where I was doing it for no good reason. And I just kind of stopped. I puttered out. Um, I still play them, but I haven't really been designing games or in that community very actively for a good 2 or 3 years. Uh, and then I got a contract with a client, and then I ended up going on board in house with that client and became, well paid marketing communications. I wouldn't say executive. I was one step away from executive. And I was like, okay, you know what? I'm going to make a good living. I'll do this stuff on the side if I want to, but I kind of dropped games after that. And then I got laid off. So that's when my world kind of turned upside down. And I looked around, and I tried to get back into the industry, the marketing industry. And for reasons I don't need to bore you with, it was just impossible. There's no work available. And I kind of stumbled into acting again. It was really as simple as I'm seeing a lot of casting calls. I need some money. I wonder, I mean, that's the only other thing I know how to do. I wonder if I can do it still. And the moment I switched gears, I realized that I had been in the wrong river for decades. And that's what I want to talk about on this. There's a lot of preamble, 12 minutes of preamble. I've only got about 15 minutes. I keep these about half an hour. That was the moment that I realized the majority of my life was spent on the wrong path. There might be a part of me that regrets having gone the direction that I did from about 22 till about 46, 47, however old I am now. And I think there is a part of me that regrets that because could have been involved in movies as early as the 90s, back when the indie movement was huge and there was work. And instead, I got into the industry possibly at the worst possible time. However, I don't think it's fair to take on that much regret. I, for one, didn't know the available options. For two, I wasn't mature enough to understand that it was a grind and that I wasn't just going to be found right as a star. And then the third reason was I don't think I was prepared. I didn't want it enough. I mean, I think I would have found a way if I wanted it enough, but I obviously didn't. I valued creating a stable life more than that. So it's not that I regret it. I think I think had I gone into acting, it would have been a slog, and I maybe would not have liked it. Uh, and the other flip side of that coin is that I have so much lived experience now to bring to the arts that I wouldn't have had before or wouldn't have earned. And it makes me a thoughtful, strategic person when it comes to the craft. And it makes me, my marketing experience has been invaluable to all of this. In my having had worked with so many different types of businesses over so many different industries has really given me a good business sense about all of this. And I think I'm way more well positioned to be successful in a variety of ways than I would have been had I not gone through 20 years of business. So there's that. But the other thing is, we are the sum total of our parts. And unless you're willing to do what it takes, there's no point in doing it. You could, and it doesn't have to define you. So I don't have to be defined by I'm a marketing guy or I'm not. Uh, and so I need to embrace the totality of who I am, and I do. So I don't have a lot of regret. I have some regret, but what that does mean is that I'm really trying to make up for lost time, and I'm trying to get immersed as quickly and as thoroughly as I can in the industry. Trying to get onto sets as often as possible, as much as I can afford to. And then I'm also trying to apply my understanding of marketing and business to build the foundations of the things that I need to be successful. This Substack is part of that infrastructure that I'm going to need to be successful. And one of these days, I'll kind of go into my strategy and all of that. So I am grateful for the life that I have. The other thing that I'm grateful for is, and this was also a product of, I think, of my early life decisions, is I'm grateful for my family. I'm so grateful for my family. I have such a supportive, loving family that my immediate family, my wife and my son, my parents, my brother, and in my extended family, my cousins, my found family. I am so lucky that I have such beautiful, wonderful people around me to support me in this radical transformation that I'm going through. And I'll talk about my wife in particular. She is a rock, and we have built such 25 years of marriage. We have built such a life together that we are almost sharing the same mind. And the fact that she is both willing and able to support the family while I do this is astounding to me. She's also paved the way for me to help get additional work at the school as a substitute teacher, and so she's making that part easier for me so that I can bring in more revenue into the household in between gigs. She has been not only positive but a force of how do I put this? She's a force of nature, but through her actions, I have been empowered to do this work. And she met me as an actor. That's how she knew me. And when we fell in love, that was what I was doing as a writer. And I told her even when we were dating that I wanted to have a film company. I told her. She misheard me and thought I said phone company. I thought it was really weird, but then we cleared that up. But she has made all of this possible. And I think about other actors or creators or filmmakers or whoever who don't have that foundation, somebody that can financially and emotionally support the person that's getting into the arts where there is no money or emotional support. It's a very vulnerable business. I'm so used to being kind of a provider for the family, and I'm no longer that. I am no longer that. I am bringing in enough money so that we don't have to stretch ourselves, or we are still stretching ourselves, to be honest. And I feel inadequate because of that, and I feel sad that I can't provide like I used to. But I have never been happier, and I think that joy that's been consuming me over these last, or radiating from me, I should say. It's not a negative, it's radiating from me over the last year, has dramatically and positively impacted my relationship with my wife and my son. And they both love to see me this way. I think that my life in corporate America was phoned in. I was never really good at it. I had a hard time adapting and changing myself to meet the standards of corporate America. I had a very difficult time running my own business in this field. I'm just not good at it. It's not the way I'm built, is not how I think. I had to re-engineer my thinking. I remember kind of dismantling who I was and rebuilding myself in this corporate image. And I remember my wife telling me during that time, I don't recognize you anymore. That should have been a red flag. Uh, there's something about what the the capitalist mindset does to a creative, and it's heartbreaking that we are required to change who we are in order to live in this society. And now that I've rejected it, and I'm never going back, now that I've rejected it, I'm so at peace with who I am. I haven't been at peace with who I am since I was 22. And I am at peace with what I'm doing. I have never so quickly identified who I was in all of those years as I do now. When somebody says, "What do you do?" I say, "I'm an actor, I'm a writer," without hesitation. Before, I would say, "Well, I'm in marketing, I do some games on the side," and it was a much more complicated answer, and I had a hard time positioning it. Now, I know exactly who I am and what I'm doing and why. So I accidentally found my way to the river, and there's some way, a part of me is like, I was always heading this way, but I finally arrived, might be more to the point. And I'm here now, and I'm never going back. I have lots of ideas on how I'm going to make this successful. I have lots of successes in just a short time that I've been doing it. I am so thrilled for the future. And I believe that it's so important now, probably more than ever, to lean into the art, whatever your art is. And mine is stories. I just want to put up mirrors so that we can see ourselves better. That's what I'm all about. The future. I've got a few more minutes to kind of tell you, broad strokes, what I'm after. I'm not planning on being Scorsese or Robert De Niro, although I would like it. I do have some North Star actors. I like Ethan Hawke. I want every role that he has, so that's basically where I am as an actor. As a filmmaker, I I just have my first one done, and I'm shopping it around at film festivals, etc. And I've had two others in the works, another on the way after that. I I am less interested in the studio model as I am in creating stories for audiences. So I'm going to be severely scrappy on the films that I make, and they will be iteratively better than the last one by nature. So I'm not planning on doing big major things with big major budgets. I'm planning on doing things that are appropriate for the audiences that I'm making and the technology that I have available to me. So you're going to be seeing a lot of interesting material, because what I have to do strategically is, with my business hat on, is I have to be able to, as a prove myself as a filmmaker, as a proof of concept. And so the projects that I'm doing are twofold. One, good projects with very minimal budgets and equipment and gear and all that, and two, good acting projects that I can promote, build a portfolio of acting and a portfolio of films at the same time. And I do believe very strongly that for us as actors, if we can't get work, we have to make our own work, and that's what I'm all about right now. So it's got to check both boxes. I am, and so I'm gonna build these projects, and then when the output of these projects is that I can start getting funding for larger projects, not through just crowdfunding with folks like yourselves, but through brands. And my goal here is to get a portfolio together of films and acting that I can go to brands and say, look, I want to do something with you as a partner. I have all of these scripts that I've written. Here are some projects that I've made. These are the people that I want to work with. This is the money that I need. This is going to be a good marketing uh, project for you. And then I can fund larger scale projects. That's the plan. I I need was going to say support, but that's not the right word. I I need a lot of community. I need a lot of hugs. I think that's what I need. That's mostly what I need, and I need conversations. So, since you are a benefactor, I invite you to WhatsApp, and I have a group there that I'm building so that we can have one-on-one conversations. I invite you to reach out to me so that we can have coffee. I invite you to, join me on some of these productions in whatever capacity, whether it's financial or in kind or whatever you can do to help. And I just want you to be on the journey with me, and that's what it's all about. And I just kind of wanted to give you the whole journey so you can see where I came from and why I landed here, especially for those of you that knew me at different parts of my life and my journey. Some of you I met in the business world, some of you I met in the game world, some of you, you knew me when I was in college, some of you knew me when I was in high school. This is where I landed, and this is my invitation to join my community. And I appreciate you all. Thank you so much. I am just under 30 minutes, so I'll call it here.